Hey Playas, how you doing? Welcome back to Playas Guide. This episode of Playas Guide covers some of my favorite and some of the best beat 'em ups on the NES. First up is Mighty Final Fight by Capcom. I really love this game and the way that it looks. Now, if you're familiar with the other Final Fight games, this game is a lot more animated and has a different kind of cartoon style where the characters have giant heads. But you can play as Hagar, Cody, and Guy. They're all in this one. It's a lot of fun. You're also going to recognize quite a few different characters and enemies. Thrasher is the first boss in the stage. I won't give too much away. Tiny's in it. And some other characters that you would recognize from the other Final Fight games in the franchise. And, you know, it has interactive environments, a good variety of enemies. Poison, she's in there too, my girl. And this game, though, if you're looking to add it to your collection, it's a little bit pricey. This is one of the more rare, if not the rarest game on this list. So next up is TMNT Arcade, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 the Arcade, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the Arcade, whatever you want to call it. This is the Ninja Turtles game to own on NES. Now, the third Ninja Turtles game is also really good. This game is the arcade version of the Ninja Turtles arcade game on the NES. That was a 4-player game. And this game, you can play 2 players. It has some very interactive environments. The first stage you play, you're going to notice like balls falling down stairs from the background, going into the foreground that will just roll you over and flatten you. There's a lot of recognizable characters in this game too, and it controls very good. Now, I myself am not the best at this game, so I didn't make it super far in it. I have beaten it with some help. I've also been able to beat the arcade game with some help, not playing it single player. So this game had an extra stage added to it that wasn't in the arcade as well. It's this snow stage. That's the one I usually die on. I really kind of hate that stage. But you know what? It's something extra that we got to make the game a bit longer for people to play on their home console, because it wasn't going to be eating up as many quarters. But it's a great game. If you don't have this one, then you have to go buy it. Double Dragon. What NES Beat 'em Up game list would be complete without Double Dragon? Well, none. None of them would be. They are garbage, and go shit talk somebody in the comments if they put out a beat 'em up NES list and they didn't include Double Dragon. Because if I do a follow-up, I'm going to do Double Dragon 2, and then I'm going to do a third follow-up with Double Dragon 3. But Double Dragon Classic Series, your girlfriend gets stolen, so you go on the rampage beating the fuck out of everybody that stands in your path. Double Dragon has Linda. You can take her whip and beat her up with it. When you fight a Boo-Boo or Bobo, whatever his name is, you just try to line him up on that conveyor belt, and maybe if you can just line it up right, you can just knock him right off and not really have to fight him much. Just like that. Here we are at this end of stage 2, about to fight the boss, but you know what? Screw it. I don't really feel like fighting him. I'm just going to go advance to stage 3. A little later on in the NES lifespan, they came out with Battletoads and Double Dragon. So Battletoads, I think it's a beat 'em up, but I didn't put it on this list because I know some people don't think it's a beat 'em up. It's debatable. It's got a lot of platforming to it. Now, the platforming in Double Dragon is pretty difficult because that is not the focus of the game. But in Battletoads and Double Dragon, it's a pretty well-rounded game. There is quite a bit of platforming, but it's more so a beat 'em up, and there is a lot of beating up to do, and a lot of different interactive stages and environments. boss fights. And the cool thing about it is it meshes the two games together, so you're going to see some familiar boss fights and enemies that you've seen in either of the games, and now you can play as your favorite characters from those games, including Pimple, which was not in the original Battletoads. You had to rescue him. So we're going to end things here on what I think is a little bit of a high note. We're going to end it with Rollergames. That is maybe the hidden gem, or a game that you may have heard of or seen or passed over when you're out looking for NES games to add to your collection, and you didn't know that this game was a beat 'em up. So this game is actually based off of, I think it's like this sort of American Gladiator style rollerblade competition game from the very early 90s. I could be mistaken, it could have been the very, very late 80s to early 90s. Anyways, I don't know this show, I've never seen it, and they made a game based on it. And the game is you ride around on a pair of rollerblades. There's some cool platforming where you're jumping over barrels and different things, but ultimately you're beating up other rollerbladers, and there are some different mini boss fights, I want to say, and just different stages. It's a really interesting game, and it is a lot of fun, and it's not too expensive. I think the only really expensive games on this list, or rare games that you might have trouble finding, is Mighty Final Fight for sure, and Double Dragon and Battletoads. They've gone up there in price quite a bit, and they're pretty uncommon, rare games to find for the Nintendo Entertainment System. If you enjoy the Nintendo Entertainment System as much as I do, check out some of my other videos here on Playas Guide. Also, come join me and some of my friends over on Twitch all week long, where we bring you the highest quality of retro gaming. Playas Guide also has a podcast, so please hit up Podbean and subscribe to us there, and leave a kind comment and rating, and follow us on all the other platforms like Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. But until next time, keep it retro. Later, players.